Hello and welcome to Lois and Morgana Davidson Art. It's Morgana here, and today I'm back with a review of some new watercolour paper. This is a block of Saunders Waterford high white hot press paper. It's a decently large size. It's 16 inches by 12 inches, this block, so it is a little bit larger than anything I've painted on before. It's 300 GSM paper or £140 weight, which is the same weight as I usually do paint on. And those of you who are familiar with our videos on this channel will know that both Lois and I do enjoy painting on Saunders Waterford. It's one of our regular papers, but we usually use pre-cut paper sheets rather than pads or blocks. So this is the first time I've tried painting on a block like this. As a quick comparison note, the lower left paper showing now is the Saunders Waterford high white pre-cut paper sheet that I usually use, and on the right top corner is the block. You can see that the texture looks pretty much the same between the two, as does everything really. I have read some reviews saying that the paper that Saunders Waterford uses for their blocks isn't as high quality as that of the pre-cut sheets, which is one reason I was eager to test this paper out. The block is gummed on all four sides to keep the paper flat and secure whilst you paint, except for just here at the top where there is a small opening for you to slip in a palette knife to remove the top sheet of paper once you're finished painting. The quality does feel really lovely, I must say. The paper feels really wonderfully smooth and soft, which you would hope for with hot press paper. I do tend to favour hot press over cold press these days, but that's down to my personal preference. Today I'm going to try painting one of my impressionistic landscapes using the card swipe method onto this block, as they do use quite a lot of water and paint and can sometimes be quite tough on the paper, and as such I thought it would be a pretty good test of this block. I'm wetting the paper all over to begin with, fully saturating the paper to see how much it cockles whilst on the block. And while the paper did buckle very slightly, as I'm sure you can see, it was less than I expected and it didn't noticeably affect my painting, which is a good sign. For the painting today, I've squeezed out 3 colours of fresh tube paint, which you see here, directly onto the back of an old store card. I'm using sepia, burnt sienna and Windsor blue. Using gentle horizontal motions, I begin by using the card to apply the thick paint directly onto and across the damp paper. I do love this technique, as you can use the edge and shape of the card to build distinctive shapes and patterns spontaneously into your landscape as you go along. It's just so much fun to play with, and I felt like this larger paper also gave me a lot of freedom and a lot of space to paint in, which was another plus point. I'm also using a couple of flat brushes today just to help move the colour around, as you see here, as well as the card to create shape and texture. I really like as well how the Winsor blue that I'm using has mixed with the other colours on the paper to create this misty, earthy kind of green shade. If you remember, there were only 3 colours of paint applied onto the paper, and none of them are a green paint, so to find this lovely rich landscape green appearing from within the mix was a really joyful thing today, and I'm definitely going to make note of this colour combination for some future work as well. I'm also using the corner of the card to scrape into the wet paint, creating patterns in a different way. This, as well as being fun, is another test of the paper, as thinner paper or low quality watercolour paper can easily become damaged under this kind of work. It can disrupt the sizing, it can cause the paint paper to sort of pull up or tear. However, as you can see, I was able to do quite a lot of this scraping work into the wet paint with no problems at all. This is a technique that of course you can do with a palette knife or the end of your paintbrush or any similar tool to create these lovely effects. I'm also using the spray bottle again to re-wet this area of the paper, using my hand and arm to shield the areas that I've just painted from stray water droplets. This is just so that I can add a little bit of Winsor blue into the upper area of the paper, which I'm doing now with my 2-inch brush, creating this lovely bright yet simple blue sky. Now, the observant among you will notice that during this step I accidentally dropped some water from my brush onto the lower left part of the paper. You can see these huge great big cauliflower blooms forming there. I, however, did not notice, or at least not for a minute or so. And while this was a mistake, it did give me a chance to see just how well the paper responded to me sort of going back in and mucking about with it a little bit down in this bottom corner. As some papers can get very unhappy and blotchy if you start going back in once the paint has started drying and mucking about and trying to smooth things out. But as you'll see, I was able to use my flat brush to basically sweep away and soften these marks down and still get a lovely smooth finish. At this point you can see I've spotted the water blooms here, and I'm just using the 2-inch brush to smooth them out, basically to smooth out the paint that's already on the paper, brush it over and give it back a nice sort of clean finish, which I'm actually really pleased with in this lower section. As less is more when it comes to these kinds of paintings, I decided to put my brush down at this point, leave it to dry and call it finished. I must say that overall I'm actually really chuffed with what I've managed to achieve just in this quick test of this Saunders Waterford blot. You can see that it's now fully dry and it's actually dried back completely flat, which is a big plus point, and the high white colour paper meant that those lovely soft pale washes of transparent watercolour, particularly in the sky, are positively glowing. I am now clumsily attempting to show you a side view of the blot as a whole, so you can see just how flat the painting has dried. This is worth noting because another test that I did of this blot was actually removing a sheet of paper, cutting it in half, then taping it down to paint on. When I did this, I must say that the paper that you see here has buckled quite significantly once the water was added. If you recall, this is actually half a piece of the paper that I've just painted on, so it is a little smaller but certainly more buckled. So for what it's worth, I do heartily recommend this watercolour blot, but I do not recommend that you remove the paper and cut it down before painting. Paint straight onto the blot if you want it all to remain nice and flat. Overall, I'm really happy with the paper. It's lovely quality, really nice soft, smooth texture cotton paper, lovely bright white in colour, which of course in turn helps my colours to look lovely as well. The weight is good, it's well sized, and overall just felt like a really pleasant painting experience today. So this watercolour blot gets the thumbs up from me. I hope you enjoyed the video today. Please do let me know if you want to see more art material reviews from Lois and myself. Take care everybody, have a wonderful rest of the week, and wishing you all very happy painting.